What happened in this one? This event was on Smith Mountain Lake, my home lake. Clear water, a lot of docks, and it has a lot of fish in it. So going into this tournament, I was really excited. I knew it was gonna be a lot of fun, and there were gonna be a lot of fish to be caught.
Never break, always fight, never quit, do it right, play the game, win it life, have no shame.
Probably should think about what I want to say before I hit record, because then I just end up with all this like wasted footage, but then when I think of something brilliant, I don't want to not have it on camera. Hey guys, Jack Dice here with Obsessed Fishing, and welcome back to another episode of my tournament series up and coming, following me fishing the FLW BFLs. And this event was on Smith Mountain Lake, my home lake. It's a lake I have a lot of experience on, and it's a lake that is clear water, a lot of docks. It has a lot of fish in it, and particularly in the springtime, the fishing gets really, really good on Smith Mountain. So going into this tournament, I was really excited. I knew it was gonna be a lot of fun, and there were gonna be a lot of fish to be caught. So but by mid-May, the spawn is really on the decline. Most of the fish have gotten off of the beds, and they're actually, what you're left with is females who are gone and not on the bed, and the males who are still in the area guarding fry. And what they'll do on the lake, a lot of times, they will set up on the dock posts and underneath the walkways where there's a little bit of cover, a little bit of shade for their fry, and they'll protect them for several weeks. And they're suspended up high in the water column. Now again, they're guarding their fries just like on a bed. Those fish are aggressive and they can be a lot of fun to catch, and you can catch a lot of them. I've seen it before in Smith Mountain where you can go in some pockets and every dock has a bass guarding fry on it. This time of year, again, a classic bait that I just have a ton of confidence in, a Wacky rig Senko can be absolutely killer. Weightless, you skip it around, it skips beautifully under the docks, and you can just go out and have an insanely fun time. And I used this technique and followed it up last year and caught a bunch of fry guarders in the tournament on the same time of year, and I ended up cashing a check. So going into this event, that was obviously on my mind as something I wanted to do. You just catch so many fish, it's a lot of fun. But the problem with it is, those are males, and the male bass are generally smaller. So the question is, how can you catch females? And when it comes to clear water and post-spawn, a lot of times the first bait that comes to my mind to catch a bigger bass is a topwater. And this is what I remember thinking in the event last year, and it ended up being a bait that a lot of the guys caught them on really good, but I never ended up throwing. So coming into this year, that's what I wanted to do. But another thing that's really key to look for in the post spawn, when the water temperature starts to get up, when those bass are getting done spawning, you get the shad spawn. And now the shad are the little bait fish that the bass feed on. And when they spawn, they're very vulnerable to being eaten by bass. And when you find where those two species are colliding, the shad, the spawn, and the big bass feeding on them, a lot of times those big post-spawn females, it's an easy meal to go after those shad. And so I knew in practice for this event that was something I wanted to find. But of course, if you don't know, shad spawn in low light conditions. So generally the best chance you have to find it is early in the morning. So I would get out there really early, run around looking for hard cover and structure that might hold shad, looking for bulkheads, riprap, points, docks. They'll spawn on it all. But the problem in Smith is that it's hard to narrow down because the whole lake is hard cover. Everything is either riprap or hard pole docks or points or bluffs. It's all hard cover, and hard surfaces are what the shad like to spawn on. So pretty much the whole lake is a possibility for shad to spawn, and it's something that I just never cracked the code on. I searched for it and searched for it and searched for it in practice, but you only have a short window in those practice days in the morning to really have a chance to find that shad spawn, and once it's done, it's done. You can't find it. And so in the end, I tried to resort to other ways to catch big bass, throwing a jerk bait, and try to determine other areas of the lake that might have a better quality average. But really the whole lake was firing, and for me it's hard not to get to where I just start to run around. That's ended up, I spent my practice all over the place, and come tournament day, I really didn't have anything particularly figured out as far as how to catch bigger fish. But the fish were doing the exact same as the year before. They were garden fry everywhere. There were a few rogue spawners, and some of the fry guarding males actually are pretty good. And so going into the tournament, my goal was to try to just go through the numbers game, set the hook as many times as I could in a day, cull as many times as I could, and hopefully come out with a good bag. Nice job. Thank you. I got it. Thank you so much, sir. First one's always good. Means you're not getting skunked. Wow, that's one way to go. Make it nice and easy for me. So I put a few fish in the boat early, and that settled me down, made me feel good. They were quality fish. They weren't giants, but they were good ones. And then I began my rotation of areas. Yes. Thank you for dropping that. Thank you. I got him. Well, there you go. Number 5. They ain't big. And when I started rolling through these areas, I started noticing stumps underwater. And what I would do is when I'd see one, I'd crouch down before I got to it and throw my bait up to it so that I would not be standing very high, so that hopefully the bass wouldn't see me. And I didn't know that there were fish there, but I figured they looked like high percentage places for fish to spawn. I got him. I think he'll call that tiny one. Oh yeah, that one's so skinny. I got him. See, I don't know at this point. They're all small. Okay. I ended up filling out my limit on a pattern that I hadn't done at all in practice, throwing at isolated stumps off the bank. The water was clear enough down there that you could see them, and there were enough stumps that I could go around and just fish them. And yeah, I had a really good time and caught a bunch of fish, but again, couldn't seem to find those females. They were all males. Having a limit early certainly calmed me down, but I kept that wacky worm in my hand and I said I'm just gonna go for numbers.
Huh?
She was quiet back here in the back of the boat.
Got him? Shy. You wanted to make a run.
Alright.
There we go.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Good job. Net. Oh, he ain't that big. Without, no, I didn't even want to keep. No. Besides, we ain't be calling by pounds, not ounces anyway. Yeah. Oh, never mind, he's little. Nah. Looks like a slightly better one. This fish have been called by someone else. He's got a coal hole in him. I like the dumb ones, yeah. For sure.
So I began running more water. So I ran up the Blackwater River and fished a couple of my favorite stretches up in there, caught a few more fish, culled a few times, but again, wasn't the size I was looking for. And so at this point in the day, it's getting later in the day, and the questions start to form in your mind. Well, what do I do to get a bigger bite? Do I just go back to the lower end? Do I fish through some of the same areas again? I had checked a couple of the beds on the lower end of the lake that I had found, some of the last stragglers, and those fish were gone. So all that was left to me were the fry guarding males that I'd been catching, and the females were I still had no clue where they were. I didn't really know what to do, but to go back way up the lake, ran up the Roanoke River, which is the arm that I'm the most familiar with, and I decided I'm just gonna go fish new water and see what I can do. And so running up the Roanoke, I fished a mixture of new water, but I had fished in one pocket in practice. And the day before the tournament, I rolled into one pocket and I shook a couple fish off on this bigger community dock. But at the very end, I looked under and I saw this big fish sitting there. I'm like, is he guarding fry? And I threw my little wacky worm up to him, and he swam up and tried to eat it immediately, and I ripped it out of his mouth so he couldn't get it. And it was a good male, like a 3 or 4 pounder. I was like, wow, that's a big male. I need to come back to this fish. So when I ran up the Roanoke, I remembered that. So I ran into, before I went and fished new water, I decided to take a hard left turn and go into this marina area. I'm getting near the end, and I go to the exact post where he had been sitting. I'm like, all right, this is him. Now this fish, remember, the day before, the instant the bait had touched the water, he came up and tried to eat it. So in my mind, I'm like, if this fish is here, he's gonna bite pretty fast if he hasn't already been caught. So I skip my wacky worm in there. I get all tense, I'm ready. Nothing. I skip in there again, nothing. I skip in there like 2 or 3 more times. And I throw to the poles around it to see if he had moved, and nothing. I say, well, go figure. I'm sure another tournament angler has come in here and caught him first cast. And so I continue my way down back into the pocket to fish the other dock where I had seen a fish, and my co-angler behind me sets the hook, and I hear his drag going. He's like, I got one, it's a good one. And I turn around, and he had thrown exactly where I had thrown before. And what do you know? He caught a 3 to 4 pounder out of the back of my boat. It was the same fish that I had seen the day before. And that one hurt. That one hurt a lot because it was the biggest one that either of us had caught that day. It was bigger than anything I had in the live well. So I knew it would have been a good call. And it just, oh my gosh, it stung that I'd saved this fish and been careful with it and come back and set up and done everything I thought was right and didn't catch it. But he had been throwing a different bait. I've been throwing a stick worm, and he had been throwing a trick worm. And that's another bait that I really love to throw around fry garters. It's just a little bit different profile, falls a little slower than a Senko. And looking back on that decision, that was one where I guess you live and you learn that you should give at least one other bait a try, particularly on fish that are on bed or guarding fry. Don't just assume just because he won't bite this that he's not there anymore. I was going for numbers. I was fishing fast. I was looking for active bass that were willing to bite. But at the same time, this was a bigger fish that I knew was that I'd set up on and knew was there. I should have given another opportunity at something else rather than just assuming, well, he bit this yesterday, so he should have bit it right then, because clearly it didn't work.
Might not help. I don't know.
Close.
Really close.
Ended up fishing around, ended up catching the fish off the bed underneath the dock, and I'm culling up, but again, they're not big enough. But I did start, again, I'm playing the numbers game, and so I'm trying to find the highest percentage part. And the funny thing about this time of year is a lot of times the fish will relate to certain types of docks or certain places on the dock. And as the day progressed, I realized that the vast majority of the better quality fish were sitting on the outside right or left posts of the dock, the farthest one out. They were not on the bank part, they were not in the middle. And so I really realized I could up my percentage if I only fished the high percentage ends of the docks rather than skipping to every pole on the dock.
Matt. Yes! That will help.
And I started catching better fish once I figured that out, and catching more. I wasn't wasting as much time.
Thanks for the net. Blue. Net. Oh, never mind, I got him.
By the end of the day, I'm fishing up around, and I managed to put 2 or 3 more really good culls in the boat. and I rolled into weigh-in, and that was all I had. So I had 5 good fish, but I knew none of them were big. Alright. I'm Jack.
What's 2? Thanks, sir.
Oh,
Whoop. Sorry about that.
it's alright.
Next up, Lynchburg, Virginia, Mr. Boater, Jack Dice. Good to see you again, Jack.
See it.
What's going on out here on Smith? We're seeing a ton of fish today, no doubt.
They're biting for sure. Mostly post spawn. A lot of fish around the docks. A lot of fish to be caught. Doing pretty much whatever you want.
How'd you go about catching these?
I was throwing a wacky worm. That's pretty much what I did all day, trying to get as many as I could. Just never got that big bite.
He's got him a 5 bass limit. Jack Dice, 5 fish, gonna weigh 12 pounds, 5 ounce. Appreciate you, Jack.
So I ended up weighing in those fish. They ended up weighing 12 pounds and change, and I ended up the tournament in 20th place. And with the number of people that they had, they ended up paying, I think they paid 18 places in this tournament. And so I missed a check by 3 ounces, I believe. That hurt. To come that close, that was pretty painful. And to know, really, those 3 ounces I knew were in that fish that my co-angler had caught that I hadn't. And so that really stung. But looking back, that's not really, I can't blame my tournament on that alone. Really, it came down to, I think this tournament was an extreme opportunity to learn, because the way the tournament was won was on a shad spawn on a topwater. Now, if you remember what I said earlier in the video, again, the year before, we'd had a tournament the same time of year, same lake, same exact conditions as the year before, and topwater, in my mind, I had said, man, I should throw a topwater. And the guys who caught him in that tournament caught him on a topwater. And it was the exact same time this time around. The 2 things I really thought going in, post spawn, clear water, topwater can be a great way to catch bigger ones, and the shad spawn can be a great way to target bigger ones. And that's exactly how the tournament was won. And so it was frustrating looking back saying, I knew this was right. I knew that was the right deal, but I got sucked into just having so much fun catching so many fish on the wacky worm, or wacky rig Cinco, that I just ignored ways that could possibly give me a bigger bite. Incredible chance to learn. I should have gone for less bites, but possibly had a chance at a bigger size, particularly once I had a limit in the boat on the wacky worm. Put the topwater in my hand and see if I could pick up a bigger fish that would make all the difference at weigh-in. So anyway, that's it. That's this episode of Up and Coming. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be on the lookout for more episodes coming up. Tight lines, God bless. See you next time.